On today's show, I demonstrate how gifts bubble to the surface when you finally work on the issues that hold you back in life. That's what everybody wants. They want the gifts, but they don't want to do the work that gets you to the gifts. Watch this show, you'll see how to do it. Welcome to the Dream Interpretation Podcast with Michael and Sandy.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm so excited you are here.
Sandy's always so sincere with that.
I am.
This is another half hour of us eavesdropping on the very personal communication between the spirit world and souls on the earth journey. That's you. You're a soul on an earth journey and you're ignoring your dreams. Oh, maybe you're not because you're listening to this show. But that's what we do this show for. We show you how to understand the language of your soul because that's what the dreams come in. Sandy, what do you want to do? How do we want to start?
Well, Michael, let's start with Nicole this week. She is talking about cutting the ties that bind process. And then I can ask you to relate the dreams on today's show to that process. And she does a fabulous job.
All right, we'll do it. But first of all, what you need to understand, the cutting the ties that bind process is the world's most badly named process. It's not actually about cutting somebody out of your life. It's about energetically clearing the negative connections from that person to you. You can keep all the good stuff. So you take any mom or dad in the world, there's generally a lot of good things and there's a few bad things. This process works on eliminating the negative influence and that's it, nothing else. Now, if there's only negative influence, that's not going to go well for that parent. But badly named process, but we stick with it because we don't change that process. So let's do it.
All right. It's over to you, Nicole. Let's hear what you got to say.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, Michael. Today from the radio show Mailbag, I want to get a little personal. I've been going through the cutting the ties that bind process, and I'd love to share a little bit about my experience as well as a dream. Now, I'll just tell you, cutting the ties that bind is the most effective process I've ever encountered for deep subconscious healing. It allows us to get to a level of the psyche that I don't think we can even begin to approach when it comes to doing something like talk therapy. And believe me, I've done a fair amount of talk therapy in my life. I think one of the most exciting things about cutting the ties, especially as facilitated by Ashling School or someone who's been trained by the Ashling School, is the way that we can actually witness our healing arc. We can actually see the healing in progress. It's so cool. And of course, when we work with a trained Ashling dream interpreter, we get the benefit of being able to put into the process more and more issues that are identified through the dreams. And then, of course, we actually get to, as I said, witness that healing arc. Michael often talks about it in terms of you might start to see bloody, gory things, right? And then there's this crescendo or climax, and then there's something that switches, and we see healing. We start to see bandaged bodies and things like that, right? So I'd love to just give you an example of a dream from cutting the ties that bind with mom and that crescendo. And then I'd love to share with you about some of the benefits that I've felt. So here's a dream abbreviated in parts that I'd love to just walk you through. And I want to actually preface this by saying I had done work. I had learned meditation. I had learned self-compassion meditation. And really that was kind of my entree into the healing world. I was able to do self-compassion meditation. It felt a little bit rote, but I was able to apply it. But in all honesty, it was a bit surface level, right? So we're going to see some evidence of that it really hadn't sunk through. I was quite hard on myself. You'll see that I was not very nice to myself in this dream. So it's entitled Demon Girl. I'm in LA taking care of my best friend's daughter. Ooh, great. We've seen this before, right? Where there's it's this beautiful healing scenario gifted to us by our higher self. And it's like, wow, this is an opportunity to reparent a younger part of me. But watch, remember, oftentimes nightmares are created because the subconscious butts in and says, nope, we're not going to accept this healing. So watch what my subconscious does. My best friend's daughter was evil. Oh. She was trying to kill me. I tried to kill her, but she was relentless and supernatural. She could close doors with her mind. She wouldn't let me leave. The thought crossed my mind that maybe I should love and accept her. Of course, that's what I should be doing, right? That's the point of the dream. I'm supposed to turn towards her and love her and accept her. But this child, this girl, was evil. This is a part of me, of course, right? Rule number one, we're everything in the dream. This is me. I believe that younger self of me is evil. She was trying to kill me. I tried to kill her. I tried to kill her off, right? I tried to exile her. I tried to get rid of her in my psyche. And that's evidenced in this dream, right? But she was relentless and supernatural. She could close doors with her mind. Now, that's a kind of interesting tidbit there, right? What does that mean? Close doors with her mind. Whoa, okay. She's actually this injured part of me, this younger part of me who believes that she's evil, is actually preventing me from being able to walk through doors of opportunity, so to speak. Heavy, right? So, of course, the thought crossed my mind that maybe I should love and accept her. But she was pure evil. So again, the subconscious is saying, nope, we've seen this before. We can't engage with this child. She's bad. I was afraid for my life. I needed to get away from her. So that's rule number 4 of dream interpretation, right? What we're avoiding is what we're meant to face. And I was clearly avoiding this younger part of me because I believed that she was evil, and she believes that she's evil, right? This child part of me was so injured and so hurt that she believed that she was evil. So I woke up from this dream in a cold sweat, recognizing that really I should have taken that healing. I should have turned towards her and accepted her, but I didn't. Of course, that's what we often do in dreams. Our subconscious pokes in and we spoil it. So with that, I'll leave you in suspense for what happened next, but we'll go into the next dream that I had when I went back into the dream world with the intention of actually accepting the healing. So with that, I'll send it back to you, Sandy.
Wow, Nicole, that was great. Thank you so much for sharing your personal journey. And that makes it so relatable. Thank you. Alrighty, Michael, are you ready to dive into some dreams that cover some of the same things?
Well, they all do. They all cover issues. Go ahead.
I know. Alrighty. I love this. The lady in a bronze dress from Karen. That's our first dream. And let's dive in. A family is singing songs from a theatrical production, and they are belting them out. Jonas comes down without a shirt and sings. The camera, that seems to be viewing everything through, pans across and looks at his back. Everyone's singing along with him loudly. It's my life, are the words. There's a girl wearing a long white skirt. I think Julia Roberts will be in the movie they produced from this. There's a whole part with a Frenchman and a boat they're on. The camera pans out from the dock, and then they do this fast series of humorous stuff. The movie is getting a little long. At the end of it, a woman portraying a queen is going to come down the steps wearing a bronze colored outfit. As they sing, a large brown woman comes down the steps wearing a clingy, shiny bronze dress. My friend Gayla and I walk out to the parking. My head is down and I'm looking at little puddles on the ground. Yeah, that was about 50 minutes too long. I could have edited it better than they did. All right, Michael, let's hear what you have to say about this one.
So this person is cutting the ties that bind with mom, and near the end of the process. Now you would look at this and you see some issues because she's complaining about something being too long and all that. But this is one of the things that we see in the healing arc. And I wasn't even going to talk about this, but because Nicole picked that as the topic, it's like, okay, great. We can tie that in so well. We see somebody singing. That's about channeling. That's what that gift is. We see Julia Roberts, an actress. That's also about channeling. We see a girl wearing a long white skirt. So a skirt is a feminine energy symbol. She's cutting the ties with mom. That's perfect. I asked her about what was she wearing on top? Was it long sleeve, short sleeve? And she said it had no sleeve, which is perfect. That's another very positive when we're looking at the healing arc of the dreams when you're doing any type of therapy, because somebody not wearing or not having sleeves in a dream is somebody that's not hiding anything. They've nothing up their sleeves. And we'll show a dream after this that is the opposite of that. So all very good. And so then we see a queen coming out, which is about spiritual leadership. So we see all these gifts, many, many gifts in the dream. Now we see other stuff too, but this is the distinctive part I really want to talk about here. When you start working on the issues around a parent or whatever it happens to be in your life, like you won't necessarily know, oh, my issues are around mom, they're around dad, but you'll know you've got issues. And your dream's going to point out where they are. And your dreams are going to connect them to a particular parent. And then you work on those issues. You work on the trauma from that parent through this process, the one that Nicole has described. And as you start diminishing the negative impact, it comes up from your subconscious, gets released and healed. And as that is happening and we get further through the process, we're going to start seeing gifts just bubbling up to the surface because they have no choice but to do that. All the things that are in the way of those gifts are now being cleared. And we have a few different things in it, but the queen is spiritual leadership is a feminine energy gift. Channeling requires both masculine and feminine energy. And we see some other things in it, which we'll get into. But Sandy, have you got questions?
Oh, yeah. We have a Frenchman on a boat. What's going on with that?
So one of the things that's come up in Karen's dreams as we work the process is the need for physical intimacy. And so the camera kind of points that to it's a symbol for the reproductive system because it reproduces images. And France in dreams, if you're not from France, is about sexual liberation because that's where the sexual revolution started a few years ahead of America, happening in France. So she's being encouraged to be feminine, to restore her femininity, which we see with the woman, the white skirt. We see the encouragement to get into relationships. Don't just decide, oh, I'm whatever age I am, and I'm not going to say her age, but it really doesn't matter. Our dreams are going to say, look, don't give up on an aspect of you that is part of being human, because that's what she was doing. So it's just going to be persistent until she does it. But it's the work she's doing is helping, and that's why it's shown up in this particular dream. Next piece.
Well, hold on. A large brown woman comes down the steps wearing a clingy, shiny bronze dress. What is that a symbol of?
Well, I didn't mean next piece. I meant next question because I knew you had some. So that's a really good one. So when I channeled on this, and this is always important, you have to channel to get an accurate analysis of a dream. So we give away our dictionary, which has thousands of symbols in it, and they're all from real dreams. So it's incredibly accurate. But even with that, when you get the dictionary, and you can go to dream-analysis.com and just download the dictionary for free there. But once you do that, you still kind of want to channel and go, okay, does this symbol mean the same thing that's in the dictionary? Does it mean the same thing in the dream I'm looking at? Now, most of the time it will. And usually you're going to see a few things like here we see Julia Roberts. We see the people singing. They're both going to, if you look up the dictionary, they're both going to say the same thing. They're both about channeling. So you can already say with that one, okay, I know this works. That's fine. We also see like a dock in the dream, which is a symbol for birth. We see that a lot when people are working on themselves, the issues that go all the way back to birth. And when we see a birth symbol in a dream, we expect to see gifts. So we know it's something positive. And when I channeled on it, they said that she wants to be a warrior type. And brown as a color is about something being practical. Like I see this as a practical thing for me to do, to hold this position of authority and be the strong woman.
We have like a theatrical production going on, and she's like watching the movie. She's got Jonas coming down without a shirt and he's singing, and we have others, and we have the cameras panning around and looking at his back, and everyone's singing along. It's my life. What's going on with that?
All right. So, yeah, that's a good point. She's looking at a movie being made rather than looking at a movie. And she knows what's going to come out. And she's saying, if I was editing it, I would cut it down. So, this is another gift that's coming to the surface for her, which is the ability to see behind the scenes of the big picture. So normally we can look at something and say, this is the big picture. This is where you're going in life. This is what you need to do. Here's your bag. Great. Off you go. But she has the ability, or what's coming for her now, is she can see the obvious things. So that's what the movie picture would be about. And I said this to her, like right now you can see the obvious, but it's going to improve and you're going to get far better at seeing the subtleties. So it's like, I can see what's happening, but I also see behind the scenes and I know why it's important in your life. So it's really super the way that piece shows up for her.
Wow, that is awesome. So coming down without a shirt, what is going on with that? Does that mean that you have nothing to hide?
Exactly. And she's working on the chest, on the heart. So somebody not wearing a shirt is really, really good. And she's looking at the back. So she's looking at things from the perspective of the past, because that's what she's trying to heal. So all quite positive.
I have one more question. Why is she looking at little puddles on the ground and thinking that it's 50 minutes too long? I like the 50 and the little puddles. So what's going on with that?
So she's not finished yet, because here she is being critical, thinking, okay, this thing is taking too long, which it isn't. Healing, whatever amount of time it takes, you want to just accept it as it is. And she's saying, like, I could have cut this down. So she's looking at her life, basically. That's what she's doing. And she's saying, the lessons that I was made learn in this lifetime lasted a bit longer than I think they should have. And I'm not happy with that. Now, I think we probably would all feel that way in therapy. It's like, oh, here I am at whatever age. This woman's retired. And you're like, oh my gosh, if I'd have worked on this when I was 35, I would have had so much more of my life to live without these issues. And that's true for all of us. The best day to do something is today. Because you can't go back in time and do it 20 years ago. So do it today. Don't hold off. But she's just critical of that. And looking at the puddles, or her head down, is like she's still a bit down about the fact that this is the way her life has gone.
Excellent. Very interesting. Well, guess what? We have another dream for Karen. So let's see what's going on with the next one. The title of this one is The Code of Silence, and it's from Karen. There's an investigation involving a thin woman named Betty who wears a dark skirt suit and has black hair. Her left eye is slightly closed and her right eye is only squinting. She stares straight ahead as if totally uninvolved in anything. We've asked her to go get a pair of very fancy pink shoes. She comes back to the room and puts a shoebox on the desk. It has a thick pink ribbon around the box. The man asks that she needs her to go do him a favor. She just stares straight ahead, uninterested, and turns to leave. The man stops her in the hallway, grabs her by the shoulders, and gets her back in the room. We really need you to do this. Apparently, without her, whatever he's doing isn't going to work. He tells her that she can return the shoes if she's not going to help. I look closely at the woman's face. She has absolutely no expression, blank. And I can see those two squinty eyes. All right, Michael, that's strange.
Well, the main part of this dream is that we see this woman who is showing no emotion and blank and expressionless. And I asked her, like, what could that possibly represent in your life? Now, remember, she's cutting the ties with mom. And so she says, oh, I greystone my ex-husband and my mom. They are so alike. I can't show any emotion. I can't show anything. They will gaslight me. They will. And I'd never heard that expression before. Have you heard greystone?
No, I've never heard it.
All right. But anyway, we see it in the dream. We don't need to ask you, what does that mean? It's like I interact in the most minimalist way because anything I do is just going to be used against me. And yeah, pretty sad. But we do see in the dream, we also see the birth symbol because she's bringing in the shoebox. And that's cool. And we see the pink ribbon around the box. And that will tell us, oh, look, this person's near the end of the process because it's almost a celebration. Like, here's the ribbon. The box, of course, represents being in the womb. And so it's healing for that. The pink is about healing issues around mom. Unfortunately, though, just because you dream of pink, we know you still have issues. So it's still not done. This dream is a little bit older than the other dream we just looked at. But it's interesting how much worse this dream is. Questions or continue?
Well, what about the pink shoes? Aren't shoes for moving forward in life?
Yeah, and pink is the color for unconditional love. And we know when we see it in a dream, it means you didn't get that. And we want unconditional love from mom. Doesn't matter who else is around. That's what we need from mom. So when we see a dream giving it, it means we didn't get it from mom, but she knows that. That's what she's working on. And so when she has this pair and they're all dressed up, it means that she's getting to the point of being able to move forward in life with unconditional love because they're pink shoes.
Wow, that's great. All right, let's continue on. We need you, he tells her. I know you put this expression on, but underneath, I know there is something there. He knows this because he saw her laughing once. In a very monotone voice, she says, what do you want me to do? We need you to deliver the box. It has to look authentic. He opens a file drawer and a letter pops out. He pulls out some paper and says that they need you to go to the airport at such and such time and meet the diplomat person who is arriving from Washington and give them the gift. And we need you to leave in 10 minutes, he says. I'm not sure she's going to want to do that. And that's the end.
All right. Well, you commit to the part. I'll tell you that when you're reading the dreams. So he pulls out some papers, not paper, and there's a big distinction. Papers in a dream represent a title. You know, it's like, do you have a qualification? Do you have a Bachelor of Arts? Are you an engineer? All that sort of stuff. And so we see the gifts. We know that her other dream was talking about gifts. And a gift is in this dream too. Because a diplomat from Washington, both are going to represent spiritual leadership again. And going to the airport and giving a gift, like, it's a huge emphasis on this is your gift. So she helps people who are spiritual leaders. So that's really cool to see that in the dream. And she says, we need to leave in 10 minutes. That's another good thing to see when you're in therapy. When we see the number 10, we know she's heading towards the end of the process because 10 is the number for completion.
Oh, I love that she's meeting a diplomat who is arriving from Washington and giving them the gift. I find that awesome.
It is awesome because, again, this is the gifts bubbling to the surface because of the work she's been doing on herself. So it's her gift that she's giving to herself. Like, she is the diplomat. And it's also her guides in the dream. The man speaking with authority is like her guide is telling her, this is what you're meant to do. You brought this gift with you from birth because of the box, and the gift is all that way. So it's really, really positive. But that's all we have time for this week. I know you always love to do more, Sandy.
I know, my goodness, there's so much more to cover. I loved it. I loved the way you can see the changes in her and how she is moving forward and claiming who she really is. That's awesome. Anyways, everybody, I hope you can see that and have a fabulous week.
Here at Ashling School, We offer many, many free services. This podcast is one. We do also summits and webinars and all sorts of things. But if you really want to do some very deep, meaningful work, then don't just look at your dreams and figure out what your issues are. Do something about those issues. Heal the trauma that causes you to have certain traits in your life that you don't like maybe a trait that you hold yourself back from situations. You don't feel like you belong at parties, or you don't feel safe in the world. You'll know what they are. But we come here to this healing planet, because the Earth is a healing planet, so that we can do something about those issues. And in this show, we're talking about trauma and working on a parent, mom or dad. Our parents aren't really the ones in the grand scheme of things that gave us those issues. They just act as an anchor in this lifetime so that we can focus on somebody to give us the healing that we need to give. We need somebody to blame. We need that anchor point. But once we have it, and once we do that healing around that person, they become the catalyst for our growth. And that's really what we want. That's probably the biggest gift you could ever give your parents, because when they look at their life review, they can say, it's because of me that my daughter grew or my son grew. Now, it's not necessarily a good thing to say, well, okay, I treated them badly, that's why they grew. But that's what we need. We need to transfer the issues into this plane, into this physical plane, so we can do the work on ourselves. And this plane gives us the very concrete, like we can point our finger at the issue and go, that's my problem in this lifetime. Very hard to do that in the spirit world. Take full advantage of the fact that you are here on the physical plane because you need that healing. We do a therapy that involves multiple things. It involves a process called cutting the ties that bind, regression therapy, which brings you back to see where the issues started. It's a little bit like hypnosis, but not quite. We also do dream work, which you're familiar with on the show, but it's very pointed when we're doing it during this healing process. And then we channel. We channel and coach you on how to take the advice of your dreams and how to add into the process the very things that your dreams are saying are the most important. So we have that coming up on June 27th. If you're interested in that, then go to dream-analysis.com/healing. That'll bring you to the link. Oh, and here's an Easter egg for anybody who's still listening. We saw in Karen's first dream, we saw the mention of France, and a camera was saying, look, she's been encouraged to get into an intimate relationship. And I said, it's in all her other dreams. It's in her second dream too, with the pair of pink shoes. Relationships are often pointed out by using things that match or come in pairs, things that go together. And so the pair of pink shoes is also telling her, from working on herself, she can move forward, because that's what shoes are about, move forward in a relationship in a loving way. How beneficial is that?